Hello there! Today we are headed deep into this mountain range you see behind me in search of a mine that, when it was active, was the only known producer of the mineral that was inside of it, which is very interesting because it's a mineral that is in something that almost all of us own these days. This mine was here to make a better engine. The mine is way up at almost 10,000 feet, but before it there is a beautifully preserved ghost town. So we are going to start our way up, make the trek, learn some history. Most of the buildings were burned down. Wow. And see some nature. All right, this is where the road ends and the hike begins. Right now, I'm just under 6,000 feet in elevation at 5,900, and we're going to climb up there to almost 10,000 to the upper mine. So it's gonna be a trek, but along the way, we're gonna see a beautifully preserved ghost town, learn a lot of history, who knows what else. Let's get hiking. So the mine that we are hiking to is the Jeffrey mine, which is better known as the Champion Spark Plug mine, because back in the early 1900s, up there was the only source of andalusite in the world, commercially viable. And andalusite was used to make spark plugs. And so the Champion Spark Plug company bought this mine and ran it from about the 1920s into the 1940s. And the mine was originally established in 1917 by this guy named Adolf Knopf. And he just couldn't figure out how to make this thing commercially viable. But then, around 1921, this guy named J.A. Jeffries came up and he figured it out. He figured out how to get ore from way up there to way down there. And then eventually they'd grind up the andalusite and make it into sillimanite, which is what they made the insulators for the spark plugs with. And these spark plugs that they made were just far superior to pretty much anything else available at the time. And the use of that sillimanite was very widely advertised by Champion to kind of differentiate themselves. Almost every race car and most of the airplanes at that time were using the spark plugs that came out of the minerals from this mine, which made the mine, and the andalusite found here kind of the talk of the automobile industry. In total, they pulled almost 30,000 tons of this andalusite out of here. So there's a number of mule trails with different mule teams established in a lower camp and an upper camp. And the lower camp is the one we're gonna get to first, and that is a very, very well-preserved town that I'm excited to show you guys. And the upper camp is where the mining happened, where a lot of the buildings have been lost over the years, but there's still a lot there. So I am very excited to get up there, learn a little bit more about the site, show you guys around, and learn more about, the spark plug that maybe you guys haven't thought that much about. The sun is just peeking through, just about to hit me, and it is beautiful here. There are these large trees that I don't really have around me at Cerro Gordo, and just stunning geography. I mean, look at that old ladder they're using to get up the wash. Oh man, it is something else out here. This is kind of my favorite type of hike. Somewhere new, a little bit different terrain, to a historic mine. I get to see nature and learn something new. It's a pretty good day, if you ask me. All right, and just like that, We have arrived to the lower camp. This is where the miners would have lived while mining ore another couple thousand feet up there where you can see the holes. This is lower camp. We're gonna do a little exploration around, learn a little bit more about this place. Welcome to lower camp. It would seem at this point we should look around, and what better place to start than this, which is a museum put together by the volunteers that have been keeping this place intact. If you look around, you can tell it's in very good shape. There are a lot of buildings that obviously had a lot of maintenance over the years to keep them like this. So, huge shout out to all the volunteers that have been maintaining this site for a while now. You can see some more cabins up there. There's a lot to see here. So let's first learn a little bit in the old museum. Wow. I love this idea that, over time, people have slowly been adding their own additions to this. Talk about a hard life. So, as we talked about, this mine was here to make a better engine from the Champion Spark Plug Company. And the mineral that they're going after was this andalusite. And sometimes it can be greenish, sometimes it can be kind of this light blue. And this is what they're mining here to then make them down into spark plugs. I love this museum. They've done such a good job. And obviously it's not the only thing that they find up here. Find all sorts of different minerals. The Champion Spark Plug Mine is a historical landmark. In 1919, the discovery of andalusite at this mine led to the commercialization and development of advanced ceramic spark plug insulators for the internal combustion engines and the growth of the world's transportation industry. So where we're headed later is the high mine, the upper workings. And you can see back in 84, there was a bunch of buildings up there. But apparently down in 87, most of the buildings were burned down. So unfortunately we won't see those. But we will get to see the mines and anything else that remains up there. And next door to the museum it's a little cabin, very well kept up. I think there's a number of cabins here for people to stay in, and you can tell that people have been maintaining these for a very long time. It says somebody packed in this stove in 1973. That is a long ways to haul. It's cool that these things exist still. And out this way, that is what I would call a view. I think I found my lunch spot. You can see down below where we came from and where all the ore from way up here had to go, even from higher up. But it's very peaceful. And this camp's actually called the Black Eagle Camp. I believe because there's black eagles up here. I heard some pretty big birds. I actually saw an owl earlier. So we're gonna see if we can see some cool wildlife today too. Down here, another very well maintained cabin. Man, sometimes I complain about having to maintain all the buildings at Cerro Gordo. This kind of puts it in perspective, huh? Kitchen, very well kept up. More accommodation over here. There's a room for a bunch up here. Over here we have a must in any desert town, some metal art. Metal and glass art is real big in the desert. If I ever start doing that up at Cerro Gordo, call me out because it's not my thing, but got some inventive stuff with some wheels to probably try to get bigger stuff up here, like a little gurney almost. That's cool. You can hear over here there's a waterfall, so we're gonna check that out, maybe get some good water to drink. But I'm just blown away with how much stuff is still here and what type of shape they've been able to keep it in. You can see up here they got some bighorn sheep skulls. Bighorn sheep in the area. And this could be a pretty nice place to hang out for a bit. Another little cabin with even more beds. Man, they got enough to house 20, 30 people up here still. And some of these views, I mean, this deck, this is beautiful. And one thing that this place has that Cerro Gordo is not is water, because I can hear it rushing over here. So I think we'll take a little trip over, find the water, have lunch, and afterwards go up to the main event, the mine, where if you look just close enough, you can see a hole in the side of the mountain up there. That is where they were mining, which is just incredible to think that they found it in the first place. So let's explore a little bit more down here, but we're headed up. We're doing the whole tour today. So when this town was at its peak, somewhere around 1927, there were 15 miners that were employed and living right here. You know, they also had 2 packers and 16 mules to get all of the ore from up at the mine all the way down to the valley floor. And I think places like this are so appealing and so interesting because of that sense of nostalgia that you get. You know, it's just such a stark contrast between the past and present. Because I can look and I can see a building that was here that one of these miners would have lived in, and I try to imagine their life, and then I see the renovations that have happened since, and it just forces you into this context of thinking about, you know, past events, you know, your own life, your own connection to the past, you know, historical events that have happened since. And I just find that it really brings a really introspective and kind of contemplative mood. And it's enjoyable. You know, it's a frame of mind that I don't necessarily get every day. You know, even living in an abandoned mine myself, I just find that life comes up and you don't think about that stuff. But it's nice, you know, it's nice to remember the past. It's nice to remember that we're kind of part of this lineage that got us to where we are. And I feel like that lens of viewing the world is almost forced upon you when you're in a town like this. And so it's really enjoyable. You know, I love coming to ghost towns like this. And I think especially for me, again, living in an abandoned mining town of myself, it's even more poignant. It's even more seeking this connection and understanding to the world around me. You know, even with the mine above, you know, what type of mining processes did they do up there and how do they differ from Cerro Gordo where I live? But I enjoy just kind of sitting here trying to imagine what the miners would have been like, you know, 100 years ago, and maybe trying to think what somebody sitting here 100 years from now we'll be thinking about, and all of the events that happen, not just to the individual, but to kind of humans in general. It's kind of a fun frame of mind. It's something that I very much enjoy about these places. But I think that's enough contemplating. I'm going to finish up my little snack here, and then we're going to head up to the main event, the main mine, and see how they're getting all this stuff to make all of these spark plugs. Well, well, well. Tucked way up here, we have found the upper camp. And back in the day, there's tons of buildings here. But in 1987, a fire took down most of them, but they were able to save the manager's cabin, which is up there. And you can see they stretched power cords way up here. I gotta admit, I just said the hike to the lower camp was 4 or 5. Hike up here is harder. It's probably a solid 6. So I spoke too soon. But we're here, just about 9,000 feet in elevation. Got a little cabin falling in here. We're gonna go explore the manager's cabin and look at all these little holes they were just punching into. Punch, punch, punch. This, if you had a Champion spark plug in the 1920s, 1940s, is where the material for the insulator came from. That is so cool. Oh, there's some crazy cables up there. Oh, I'm stoked. This is awesome. Another thing I've talked about a lot on these very long hikes is Element. This little electrolyte pack has sodium, potassium, magnesium, and it has saved the day for me big time on these big hikes over the past 4 years. You know, I've been using this stuff since far before they were sponsored the videos, and I don't talk about many things, but I do love Element. All you gotta do is take one of these, throw it in a water bottle, pretty much saves the day. You know, it keeps me going, gives me that second wind, lets me feel less wrecked on these long days of hiking. And if you're out there, you wanna give it a shot, all you have to do is go to drinkelement.com/Brent, and they're giving away an 8 sample pack for free with any purchase. Again, this stuff is great. I love it. Hope you guys give it a shot. All right, into the manager's cabin, and it is wobbly, but look at that view out that window. Oh my goodness. You can see the hillside pushing in. The whole building. Wow, this is special. Oh, that is such a cool table view. Imagine that. Oh man, look at those views out of that. Again, would have been a really tough life, but your view would be that. Keep an eye on the mines. And down below the cabin, you can kind of see some of what have been the old mill. From my understanding, they would take the ore, you can see some right there, crush it up into 4 to 6 inch pieces. Those would get packed in packs of 100 pounds. A 100-pound pack would go on either side of a mule, and the mules would go back down all of that treachery you can see down there, all the way to the flat valley below, packed with 100 pounds apiece, all from up here. And they really built that thing right on the cliff. It's incredible. Looks like we had a little mine collapse right there. You can see the portal that they cribbed up. But it looks like there's no shortage of mines to look around over here. You can see it's carving through the side of it. That's so crazy. Oh, I'm excited. All right, now my favorite part of any mine journey, getting into the actual mine. So, we have a cutting table, which probably would have been for cutting dynamite. You know, you imagine they'd be here, cut. We got a very cool wheelbarrow. We got the remnants of a number of things over here. Ooh, and a chute to a higher level. We're gonna go up and over the collapse. I've never been in a mine. Oh, I was just checking the acoustics. Ooh, that's scary. It goes vertical right there. All right, so we're gonna turn around, but you can see, there you go. That is what they're mining. You can almost get a little bit hint of the bluish in there. There's your spark plugs. Plenty of other mines to go in. So let's go. Well, this mine is fun. I always look in the sand and sometimes you see footprints. In this case, I do see footprints, but not of the human variety. Got some critters that are making their home in here. Just got these real big stopes. See, they're just kind of stoping out a lot of this, following the vein wherever they could. And it's just everywhere still. You can see, almost see this like shimmer. And it's like almost like silky aluminum-ish silica. Here you got your old powder magazine or dynamite room. You know, that's why they had a locked door. You can see the spool for unspooling some of the fuse back in the day. It's so cool. It's almost like a cave because there's so many exits to the outside as well, which I'm not used to. I'm used to very dark caverns. They have a little rope here to prevent you from just dying. That's good. I wonder where they were going. Woo! That's a cliff. Now this is a big stope. You can see the drill marks, some fencing up above. This is massive. That's scary. Oh, big old hole. Anytime you track, it's a good sign because that means that there's enough ore that they had to put in a track. I'm very interested by this giant hole down there. You can start slipping and sliding down to nothing. Very interesting mining here. Kind of mostly stoping like this. Wow, look at that. You know, just kind of stoping and a lot of exit to the outside, which I think is very fascinating. Whoa. You can see where they're drilling. Maybe they're thinking about going this way a little bit. You can see the drill holes already. So typically when they're doing dynamite blast, they would drill into the face like this, and they would detonate the charges in different orders, like boom, 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 to make it go how they wanted to. And you can see they were drilling here too. Then they might have thought, hey, that's not enough clearance to the outside. Probably a bad idea. But this is almost, it feels kind of like natural caves mixed with mining due to the open nature of this. And just look at these views the whole time. Stunning. All right, and I think we saw pretty much all the mines we could get to. That's cool. You know, this mineral they're mining up here was not just for the spark plugs, it's kind of a gemstone too. You know, people use it in jewelry, healing purposes, all that type of stuff. And I never would have known about it, you know, had it not been for this mine. I would have never known that crazy stuff like this cabin on the side of a cliff even exists. It's awesome. Hikes like this remind me of all of the effort and people that go into every little detail around us. Just to think that a century ago, a man climbed to the very top of this mountain, all to extract a single material. A material that was only going to be a small part of a larger whole. A piece within a piece of some grand machinery. And that's a powerful reminder of all of the unseen hands that shape our everyday life. In every corner of the globe, in every industry, there are people that are dedicating their lives to crafting the smallest details. Details that, when combined, make our lives function in ways that we almost never stop to consider. I've never given much thought to a spark plug, except when it didn't work. But after this hike, I see it different. I saw the scrapes of the pickaxes of those who clawed that rock out of the mountain. I read about the mind of the guy who engineered it and all the sweat that brought it to life. I feel a sense of gratitude for the people that made it all possible that often go unnoticed. And I think that sense of awe can extend to everything around us. Look at any object in the room you're in. Think about how many people it took to bring that item to life. And each step was someone's entire existence. And that's a powerful thought. So I'll leave you with that. I hope you take a moment to see the invisible efforts that shape our world, to appreciate the many hands that make the ordinary extraordinary. And until next adventure, I hope you take care and keep exploring that wonder that's in everything around us.